Vince, beautiful to have you here.
You're beautiful, and it's beautiful to be here.
Thank you very
It's
much.
a blessing. Yeah.
I really appreciate your time, and I think a lot of people can learn from you. I want to say a few things about you and what I observed as your coach and as a person. I would say, if somebody would ask me who is Vince Granado, is this would be my side. Okay, I would say Vince is a strong father of 4 beautiful kids, a loving husband who is supporting his wife in every aspect, a man with a strong mind and high standards, who is always ready to grow and accepts challenges.
Thank
That's
you.
the
Yeah, I
feeling
appreciate that. Well, I'm
what
very
I
flattered.
got coaching you and being in touch with you. Now tell me your side. Who's
Well,
Vince?
who's Vince? Well, first I want to say that it's an honor to be here on the show, and um, I also have to say, like, you as a coach it's been great. Like, you really pushed me in a different way, which I really appreciate. And you saying all these very nice things to me, I really appreciate that. But I think it's like minds attract like minds. So if you feel like I'm that way, I feel like you're the same way as well. Um, uh, wow, it's just a lot to unpack what you told me, but thank you. Um, I think the thing that stands out to me, what you told me, is being a devoted husband. And I think before anything, um, when it comes to raising 4 kids, in my opinion, it wouldn't be possible without my wife. Like, she's really, I think her and I, like, we have this common understanding that our marriage is the foundation of our life, and if we have a strong marriage, if we have a strong relationship, then we can do anything together as a couple.
Absolutely.
And so the 4 kids are simply I don't want to call them a byproduct. they're not a byproduct, but they're the fruit of the love that we have for one another. And if it wasn't for my wife, there's no way that we could have raised 4 kids. And so yeah, it's our 4 children. It's they're great. They're amazing. They're beautiful, and we see them as gifts. And I think our marriage, my wife and I's marriage, is the first. Then the kids are second. They're the fruit of our marriage, and then everything else comes after that. Like, when it comes to work, when it comes to ministry, and in the church that we belong to, and then fitness, and then everything after that. So, but first and foremost, it's my relationship with my wife, then the kids, and then everything after that. But yeah, thank you. It's when you said to me, being strong and being. I think that's also a byproduct of the experiences that I've lived
Yeah,
as a man. Yeah.
that's actually my first question.
Sure,
Who
awesome.
was Vince Granado before he found sports? Was there any Vince before you found sports, fitness?
Yeah, that's also that's a good question, because I think I'd hate to say that sports define me as a person, or fitness defines me as a person, but I think that it's a very important aspect of my life, like physical activity, training, and sports. But it's certainly not everything that I am. I think it's.
Of course.
I think that like fitness is very much a vital component. But before fitness, I'd have to say that I'm very much a dreamer. I'm very much like someone that likes to come up with ideas, someone that likes to imagine the possibilities, and then implementing it is the hard part, which is where I think physical activity, training, sports helps out a lot, because you can't really dream when it comes to training. You can't really dream when it comes to sports. For instance, I'm running a marathon in September. You can't really dream when it comes to running a marathon. You gotta put in the practice. You gotta put in the hard work, and so it's like these two components of dreaming, of imagination, of like these conceptual things in your mind. They are implemented in hard reality when it comes to training. And I think when I discovered sport, when I was around 13, 14, I think that's where I began to really take off as a man. And I really appreciate being shown the beauty of training, of sport, of
What was the
physical
first
activity.
sport? How you got introduced to sport?
Whoa, that's a stretch. I think the first experience that I had with sport was with American football. I don't want to say football because when you say football here in Europe, everyone's like, "Oh, that's soccer." But in the United States, soccer is soccer and football is American
I totally
football.
understand what you mean.
Yeah, my first experience was American football when I was in middle school, and middle school is around the like 6th to 8th grade.
Okay.
So
How old is that?
I was about 12.
12?
Yeah,
Okay.
12, 13, 14. And it was like real physical activity, very regimented training.
Oh, yeah.
American football is it's very serious. You have summer training with the football team, and that was my first experience with it, and it was a butt kicker. They kicked my ass all over the place. I remember dehydrating in the middle of July during the football training camps, and it was a good experience, but it showed me just like what you have to do with your body, what you have to. It was the first time I was introduced to weight training, and I fell in love with it when I was around 13 years old. Yeah, and then after that, I got into running. I played a little bit of volleyball on the side, but mostly I was into running.
Running, long distance running, you mean?
Long distance, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then that went great for a while. Then I got into weight training, CrossFit for a while, and then introduced into bodybuilding when I took it up with you, and that was awesome. And now I'm going back into long distance running right now, kind of to round out my 40s, because now I'm hitting those mid 40s. So
okay, I understand.
That's where I'm at.
So,
right now.
Sports was always a component in your life. It was always.
Yeah, for most of my life, I'd say it was there most of my life. Yeah.
Who introduced you to sports? Because as a father, Kyle is 14 months old.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's I want to learn from past experiences, from people. What did they hear? Why they suddenly like sport, or why they try to integrate, or why it's part of their life. And maybe was it an uncle who said, "Hey, you have to play American football"? Was it your parents who pushed you to that, or what was it? Just
Yeah. So when I was 12 years old and I was in middle school, I was introduced into American football, because that's what you do when you're in middle school in the United States. Like
the class is saying we're gonna play.
You either do American football or you do cross country running. That was the two choices I had in middle school, and I hated running when I was 12 years old, because I was like this chubby, overweight kid, and I hated running. And so I was like, I'll just go play football, because that's what everyone was doing. And then so I got introduced that way, because the rest of the class was there, and that's how I got introduced to it. But I think I really came to appreciate American football when I entered into high school, and it was my group of my really close guy friends, and even I'll tell you the name. His name was a good friend of mine. His name was Rudy Mateer. I think he's from Trinidad. Okay. And then his family immigrated to the United States, and he got me to fall in love with the game, and also he got me to fall in love with weight training. And so I'd say it was him who got me hooked into like the physical activity, the lifestyle, and then from there on, I was into that scene for a while. And then when it came to long distance running, it was actually a priest that got me into it.
Okay.
Yeah, and his name was Father Jonathan. And Father Jonathan I met when I was in my 20s. Yeah, like Jonathan over there. And I'd say Father Jonathan was one of the coolest mentors that I had, as a man, and as a coach as well, because he was not only a very good, like, down-to-earth priest, but he was also a really solid runner. And we'd go on long runs together when I was training for my very first marathon, and he'd always be my motivation. He'd always say, "Run to the gate," and he would use scripture. He was like, run like with an eagle with wings, and let God's grace be the wings to carry you through, but just keep running. But he was also very practical as well. He's like, when you get to the downhill declines, make sure that you're running on your toes, or you're running on the midfoot. And he's like, and when you stop at the brakes, make sure you stop completely, drink the water. Don't just like grab the water and like throw it in your face. Like, stop running, walk, drink the water, and then keep running.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you do. You'll like waste like maybe a second and to do that. And then yeah, and he also ran the last couple miles with me in the marathon together as
Super
well.
cool.
So really solid guy, Father Jonathan. And then I'd have to say, when it came to weight training, like you were a really solid coach in that. So I appreciate
Thank you very
that.
much.
Yeah.
Thank you for that compliment.
Yeah.
As a father, how do you try to implement good habits or fitness habits into the life of your family and your kids?
Oh, yeah. So I believe as a father, because when I was growing up, I had a dad that, and I love my dad very much. He's an amazing guy. He would try to get physical activity into our family, into me. But he didn't do it himself. So it was kind of hard to kind of follow that. So when it comes to physical activity, I try to use like exercise as something that I can do myself, and then the kids can model it after me. And I see it now, especially my son. He's 12. He very much wants to do exercise now, and so we have like a weight set at home, and he does the exercises on his own.
So cool.
And we've gone on a couple runs together as well. And he's also into athletics as well. He plays basketball. I'm sure you'd be proud of him. And he plays for his team at school.
Which team?
He plays for the
school.
Yeah. He goes to the Christian International School, and so they have their own teams. They play against the other.
They're strong.
Yeah, and they
They're
play against the
strong.
other schools.
So basically, because you're playing, because you are showing up as a model
Yeah,
who is doing the thing, who
Yep.
is training,
yeah,
they just see, okay, that's part of life. That's how we should live. We train, we are active.
yeah. Because when it comes to kids, you can tell them all you want, but
Absolutely.
they'll listen more to the things that you do rather than what you say. And that's why I have to be very careful about what I do around the kids, the kind of example I am, because I know they'll do exactly what I do. And especially when it comes to being a man, the boys will pretty much model exactly the man that you are. And the same goes for me. I look at myself and I reflect on myself as a man. I'm very much like my father, and there's things that I have to catch in order to avoid the negative things about my father.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of really good things about my father as well that I see begins to develop as I grow older and older. And so when I look at my two boys, I have to make sure these boys are going to become who I am right now, And then furthermore, the girls, like my daughter, she's very much going to, I think the way that if she chooses to be with a guy, she's very much going to have me as a base. It's like, okay, this is the kind of man that my father is, and so it's going to affect how she chooses her partner someday. So
You're absolutely right.
So I think it's, when it comes to everything, not just activity, but everything in life, it's like your children will basically use you as the model that you are. So yeah, I try to be that model for them.
That's so.
But it's tough because I'll tell you what, man, trying to get exercise in with 4 kids, especially with a newborn.
How do you do that?
It's killer, man. It is killer. It is.
What are you planning? How do you? Because you're preparing. You told me to beat your personal best at the Baja Marathon.
Yeah.
How do you? Because when you do weight training, it's 4 times 1 hour, 3 times 1.5 hour. It's so probably less than 6-7 hours of training a week.
Yeah.
You can do it less. You can do it 3 hours too.
You can do it 3 hours, yeah.
But with running, it's a different beast. It's a lot of time.
Yeah, it is a lot of time.
How do you incorporate that into your life?
So basically my training right now for the long distance, for the marathon, is I'm averaging right now around 60 or 50 to 60 kilometers a week.
That's a lot, man.
But it's not that much. I mean, I have to get up
for normal people.
Yeah.
it is.
But I mean, for a distance runner, I mean, I have to get up to around 90 to 100. I basically have to go really early morning before anyone wakes up, which is really hard to do. Or you go late at night. That's how it is for me right now. So I either go like really early in the morning, and weekends for long runs, and then, or I go late at night when people are already beginning to wind down. So that's when I have to do it. And again, like, I also have to have the support of my wife. Like, she needs to be there for me, especially in the evenings. Like,
Let's go into detail.
yeah.
What exactly are you preparing or doing so you can run, you can train? How is do you communicate with your wife and the discipline you need? What do you have? Where do you have to say no? Let's get deep on that.
Yeah.
Maybe sorry, I'm interrupting,
Yeah.
but maybe this is pretty normal for you.
I would say, yeah, I think also just to give a precursor, like, it's very normal for me. Like, before my wife and I even started dating, she knew that, like, exercise, sport was just a part of my life. It's not something that like I want to do. It's just something that's there. You know, it's like I wake up every day. It's like, oh, I have to do some sort of exercise. You know, it's like, it's just there. I mean, you were my coach. You saw, like, I never missed a workout. It's just because, it's not because I don't want to miss a workout. It's just there's no choice. Like, it's just my lifestyle. You know?
And it is you as a person.
It's
You
me as a person,
accepted to be the Vince, the high standard Vince you are. You need to do the things to justify this person. Is it the right word?
I would say it's, I don't even know. Is it a lifestyle? Because I feel like it's just like doing physical exercise, or it's almost as important as like eating. You know, it's just like you just got to do it. You know, like, and if I don't do it, if I feel like my day is not complete, you know, and my wife will tell you as well. It's like my mood is just not right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it's just there. Whether it's like 30 minutes or an hour and a half or 2 hours, it's like there has to be that physical aspect to, you know, to my life. And so I would say that it's squeezing it in is like, it's not hard because it has to be done. So it has to be done. And now I guess the challenge is, at what point can it be done at? And I just try to find those pockets of time. And if it begins to come into like conflict with the schedule of the family, then I got to communicate that to my wife. Yes. So I'll give you an example. This morning, I had to do an hour, 9-minute run. I told my wife, like, early in the morning, like before, you know, we even got out of bed, it's like, honey, I got to do this hour and 10-minute run before the podcast. And she's completely okay with it, you know. But there's times where, you know, it won't work out ideally. Then I have to find another time where it can work out. And sometimes that results into me doing it like at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night. Yeah. And when I was weight training, when I was really working on like bodybuilding, getting my body fat percentage down, there was times where I'd have to go like after everybody was asleep. I'd be like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and 11:30 at night once, and I finished at midnight. It was, and I think the person working at the gym was like, "What the heck are you doing here?" I was like the last person in there, but it's just, you have to do what you got to do, and especially when you're faced with the challenges of a family. Like, you just got to find the pockets of time it'll work, and then you have to have a partner and a family that will support you doing it. So,
why is it so normal for you to do what you got to do? Because if you compare to other people, you know, some people around you, also in social media, who they know what they have to do, but they're not doing it. What was it? How did you develop this work ethic? I have to do this. I find a way. There's no way I am not doing it. Where did you find this work ethic? This is so important, I think.
You know, that's an interesting question as well, right? The work ethic for it, because it's all about choices and it's all about priorities. You know, if you think about it this way, like, you know, us exercising, us putting our health as our priority, it's not normal in the world that we live in. You know, if you look at
they look at you crazy.
Yeah, they think you're crazy. You look at the normal person, and I mean, if you look at the United States, I'm sorry to say this, I love the United States, I'm American, but I think that the latest stat was like 70% of Americans were overweight.
It's so crazy.
That to me is just, that just
like
blows my mind.
Every third child, it's overweight.
What I mean, and nothing against, you know, people that are overweight. I mean, you know, that's fine, whatever.
Absolutely.
I don't judge you at all, but it's it's just shocking to see that that is the norm of the world right now, and that to be healthy is actually abnormal, and to have a healthy body weight is abnormal. To have good readings on your blood pressure, your blood markers, that's considered abnormal. And then to be overweight and to have like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, that's considered normal. Like that to me it's just interesting that we've shifted.
It's not normal. It's not normal, but basically a lot of people don't do anything against it.
Yeah.
Or something against it.
But for me, of course there's like certain, I guess, physiological and psychological things that come in the way, but other than that, it comes down to choice. Do you want to prioritize your health? Do you want to live a healthy lifestyle? If you do, you're going to find a way to do it. You're going to find the time to do it. You're going to make the right choices to do it. You just have to make sure that's your priority. And once you've kind of solidified, right, this is my priority. I want to be healthy. Not I want to lose. One of the things I really get annoyed with is like, okay, I got to lose 10 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm like, lose 10 pounds of what? Like, if you want to lose 10 pounds fast, just cut your leg off. That's 10 pounds right there, for me, when I hear people saying they want to get healthy,
yeah,
I'm like, well, then you need to shift the mind.
Absolutely, it has to start from the mind.
Yeah, you need to choose to incorporate it into your lifestyle. And I think that's the important thing. It's like, this question of work ethic, I think it becomes much more manageable when it becomes a part of your life. When it's like, all right, this is the priority in my life, and this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to live my life, and nothing is going to come in the way of it. So I think for me, the work ethic is not as hard to stay in shape or to live a healthy lifestyle, is because it's part of my lifestyle. This is what I do every single day. And for me, it's taken years to establish that kind of consistency. I guess it's taken my entire life to establish this kind of consistency. So work ethic, it's hard to put in. It's hard to say, all right, you know what? I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to do it by this certain date. It's really hard to do that. You can do that, but then what happens after that? After the wedding, then you end up putting the weight back on.
Absolutely.
But it's much more easier when it's like, all right, I want to be consistent. I want to be consistent for the rest of my life. And I'm going to put in the work every single day, even if it's 30 minutes, but I'm going to do it every single day, and I'm going to do it, for the long run. Then it's much more easier, in terms of work ethic, because it's like integrated into your life. It's a part of your lifestyle. So I would have to say, when it comes to work ethic, it's for me, it's become much more manageable because it's just integrated into my daily life, and it's consistent. Like, I do it even when I don't want to do it. Even when, like, I didn't want to go on this run this morning. Yeah. I woke up this morning, I'm like, you know what? I want to sleep until 10, and then I'm going to go do this podcast with Jeff. That would have been so much easier, but because I know that that's not who I am.
You're saying the right word or the right sentence. This is who you are.
Yeah.
And I find why a lot of diets and fitness journeys are failing is because they think the habits they have to incorporate in their life are sacrifices to get a specific goal.
Yeah.
That works for a short time
until
you reach a specific time, or until you don't have enough energy in that bucket anymore, in that willpower bucket, I would say. That works for a short time.
Yeah.
But the most successful people integrated this lifestyle into their life, and they accepted that they are the person. And they are the person who needs to establish those habits. And those habits, those wins are votes for the person you want to be, or votes for the person you are. And that's why it's normal for you. I am the person. I am this fit Vince. So that's why I have to do this.
Yeah.
There's no non-negotiable.
Sure, yeah.
And I find that's what I see with my clients. The people who accept that they are the fit person and they have to do the things, they have to do,
Mhm.
they create more transformations. They create a lot more change
Yeah.
compared to the people who are like, okay, I have to sacrifice this, I have to sacrifice this, I have to sacrifice this to achieve a certain goal.
Mhm.
What do
Yeah.
you think about that?
No, I think
Because you
it's,
said it a few times.
Yeah.
It is me.
Yeah.
I need that. I am that as a person.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. I think that me accepting, like, well, that's just who I am. Yeah, there's not a radical transformation that has to happen, you know, with my schedule. It's just, it's integrated into it already.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things that always makes me laugh is when people say I don't have any time.
Mhm.
You know, it's like, oh, I don't have any time to exercise. I don't have any time to prioritize my health. But then, have you ever played? I mean, do you play video games?
Not a lot.
Well, I love playing.
Nothing. The last time I played something was, I don't know. You?
Yeah, I love playing. Well, because my kids play video games, and I play video games too once in a while. But there's this one game that came out, this Legend of Zelda, the new one. I don't know, Jupe, have you ever played this Legend of Zelda, the new one?
I heard about it.
There's a
yeah.
new one that came out. It's called Tears of the Kingdom, and like, there was a time last week I played it for like 2 hours right before I went to bed, and I was like, gosh, I've been playing this stupid video game for 2 hours. But then there's so many things we waste time on. Like, we play video games for 2 hours, we watch Netflix for 2 hours.
Yes.
But then, why can't we exercise for like 2 hours? You know?
Exactly.
I mean, there's no
Or
difference.
even 30 minutes.
Or even 30 minutes. Like, everyone's got 24 hours. We all have the same amount of time. Again, it's just about the priority, and it's about, is it part of your lifestyle? Do you really want to do it?
Mm-hmm.
And then when people there say, well, I don't have any time, I'm like, bullshit. You know, It's not that you don't have time. It's just that you don't want to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and that's where you have to catch yourself. It's like, do you really want to do this? If you really want to do this, you'll do it. You'll find time.
You have to decide, really.
Yeah,
Do you
have to
want to
decide.
do this?
And yeah, so for me, it's like, it's gotten to the point where it's like, I don't have to ask myself, do I really want to do this? It's just like what you said a while ago. It's what I do. You know, this is what I do, and I don't even have to ask myself, is this Vince? Of course it's Vince. This is me. This is what I've been doing it since I was like a teenager, and I'm still doing it to this day. And if you ask me about 10 years from now, I'm sure I'll still be doing it. You know, there's something new that I'll be doing, something new that I will push myself to do. And so maybe I'll be doing a trail running in the next 10 years. You never know. I mean,
you asked in social media about that, right? Trail runner shoes. Because, yeah.
I think that's my next passion. That's my next adventure after this Vakau marathon is going to be hitting the trails, because that is a beautiful thing. I don't know if anyone here has ever gone running in a trail, like doing these distance running in the mountains. It is transformational. It's magical almost. You like get to the mountains and you're just surrounded by wilderness, and you're like, where the hell am I? I went on my first trail race in is it Lindkogel? Am I saying it right? Lindkogel?
I don't know.
It's by Bad Vöslau.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just this mountain. It's just like this little mountain. And it was a race. And I did my first one. It was a half marathon in February. And usually when you run a marathon, you're surrounded by like thousands of other people.
Yeah.
And there's like hundreds of people on the sidelines. When you run the Vienna Marathon, it is awesome because people are just cheering you on, and, you know, people giving you high fives. But when you run the trail marathons in the mountains, there's nobody there. And there's points where you're running just by yourself, and you're like, where the hell am I? And I got injured in one of them, on one of the downhills, and I fell and I twisted my ankle, and there was nobody around me. And this was in the middle of a race. So,
but do you have any?
I had nothing.
Cell phone or
nothing? I didn't. I mean, I had my cell phone on me, but you're in the mountain, and there's no reception.
Oh yeah.
And I finally was able to limp, and there's still nobody around me. So that's how like great these races are, is because it's really like it comes to a point where you're sometimes just running by yourself. There's these really old Austrian women that were hiking, and they saw me limping, and it was like maybe after 2 minutes of walking alone by myself, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay. Like, do you want us to help you get to the next place, because our cell phones don't work either." But you really feel like you're out in the middle of nowhere, and it's really just a beautiful experience. Like, just
that's great.
That's great. Yeah, that's gonna be my next next thing. Just running in the wilderness.
Kurze Unterbrechung. Mein Ziel mit diesem Podcast sind zwei Sachen. Erstens, ich möchte als Educator, Interviewer und Zuhörer wachsen, weil ich hier noch sehr viel Potenzial sehe. Und zweitens, indem ich interessante und faszinierende Leute interviewe, schaffe ich einen Mehrwert für mich, damit ich als Person wachsen kann, aber auch für dich. Also wenn du mehr von diesen Videos und von diesem Podcast hören magst, dann bitte abonniere diesen Kanal. You're absolutely right. With the Vienna City Marathon, everybody's around you. Because I ran the SCS 15-kilometer run, and there were, I don't know, 200 participants. And really, almost everybody's running 5 kilometers. And then when you're doing the 15 kilometers, nobody's running with you.
Yeah.
At least when you're one of the few who are at the back. Like me, I was the one of the slowest. But I really appreciate running now.
Yeah.
I've never done it. My conditioning for basketball was always like suicides and sprints and so on. And you throw a ball, I'm gonna go for it and so on. That was my conditioning. And I really appreciate running now. It's a different beast.
It is.
I'm starting from the bottom. That's why my pace is really, really slow. But I'm trying to build just volume, kilometers, and try to get better at this. Not more.
But you know what I love about running as well, the long distances, it's a good analogy for life. You know, because if you think about it, life as well is not a sprint. You know, it's very much a long haul. Like you have to put in the daily grunt of life. Like you have to get up when you don't want to get up, and you can't stop. You have to just keep going even if you want to stop. But it's the same thing for long distance running. You just have to muscle through it and just put in the time.
Exactly.
That's like life as well. And then there's times in life where you're by yourself and you're like, man, I feel like I'm alone in all of this, you know, and like what you're saying, like in the back, and you're just like, man, this sucks. I'm by myself. Same thing in a race. Like sometimes you're just running by yourself. And you're like, who the hell's around me? But then once in a while, somebody will come along to kind of cheer you up. And the same thing with life as well. Like there's so many things. Endurance. I now run without music. I run without headphones on these long distance runs. And it's completely changed me because like now I don't have anything to distract me.
Yeah.
I don't have like headphones to distract me. It's just me and the road. And it gives you time to really think about.
I have to try that.
Yeah, it's freaky. The first time I did it, I was like, what the hell am I doing? But
your brain is like...
Yeah, because you're just like so many... But after a while, it becomes like very meditational. And you begin to observe everything around you. And you begin to observe your own body. And then you begin to think about your own life. You're like, what am I doing with my life? You know, you process all of your issues. Like everything starts coming out. And it becomes almost like a retreat when you're...
That's what I really like with running. Yeah. Because you're in such a flow and you're thinking the endorphins, and you're just thinking about something. Because with training, weight training, it's like, do I want to do this, or do I want to do this next set? It's a lot more going on in your head because you can also distract yourself with your cell phone, with music, with talking to somebody else. But with running, it's like, okay, this is it, and then it's super meditational, I find. Yeah,
so now on the long runs especially, no music. I have a metronome.
No distraction?
The only distraction I have is on my watch I have a metronome.
Oh, you have a metronome.
And so it goes at
count.
it goes at 180. You know, and that's when my feet hit the ground. And that's the only thing that really distracts me. But that's it. You know, I don't have music. I don't listen to podcasts anymore. I just have me and the road. And it's pretty amazing. It's like
I have to try that.
I've come up with so many ideas on these long runs, because when you're out there with 2 hours to yourself, you're just like, man, I just thought of a way to solve world hunger. You know? or something. It's like, hey, this is how I'm going to get out of debt. You know?
Do you have sometimes the feeling you're running, you have a great idea, and then you dissect it in your brain, and you stop and you have to take notes?
Yeah.
I do that sometimes. I'm like, wow, I have a good idea here. And then you take notes.
I've come up with some of the best ideas that I've had on long runs for the ministry I was involved in. Droop, did you know that adoration night that we did together? That came up from a long run. So like all of these ideas that have come to my mind, a lot of them come during long runs, like 2-3 hour
Because it's boring.
Right. It can be boring.
And I heard sometimes, I heard at some point, boredom is what you really need to be creative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I make the kids do. I mean, even with my own children, because kids are distracted by phones and iPads. I don't know, Jonathan, if you have any kids or anything, but you have two. What I do every day now, since I've been home, taking care of them, is for 1 hour. They cannot use anything at all. They can't watch TV. They can't listen to music. They can't use any gadgets. And they're like, "What do we do?" And I'm like, "I don't care. Do something, but don't do that. Like, go outside. I don't take a nap, but."
It's so great. It's so good because we are we're living in a world where
we're distracted.
We're completely distracted. You want to numb your thoughts.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I have this tendency sometimes also to grab my phone and so on, to grab my phone.
Yeah.
But
me too, man. It's like a drug. You're just like,
it is because let's be honest, those apps. They develop it so it gets addictive.
Yeah.
And they have more screen time, and it's a business.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but really, boredom is what you need to be creative.
Yeah.
And dissect the other stuff. That's why great writers they isolate themselves somewhere in the woods or so.
Yeah.
And that's what I find with running.
Yeah.
Too. I don't run that much. I run 10 kilometers a week.
Yeah.
I want to build a base, and it's not so my priority, but I still want to be able to do it. But I find sometimes like, wow, I have great ideas here.
Yeah. But you know what? Even when I was weight training under your program, I was listening to a lot of podcasts as well. But now that I'm more into running and less into weight training, I still hit the weights. I hit the weights twice, 2 to 3 times a week.
That's good.
But when I go in there, it's only for 30 times each session. So
30 minutes.
30 minutes, 30 times, 30 minutes. And when I'm in there, I don't listen to anything because I know that I only have X amount of time.
Yeah.
And so I don't listen to anything, and I don't distract myself with anything.
Yeah.
What I've come to realize is, like, in those 30 minutes of just pure concentrated exercise, it's really quality.
Oh, yes,
it's definitely. Like I'm pushing the weight. I'm really feeling the rep. There's no music here to distract me. It's
focusing.
Just me really focusing. And then I wake up the next day. I'm like, that was a really good workout. I'm really sore. Like, I'm really feeling it in my shoulders. I'm feeling it in my chest and my back. And it's because I wasn't, I think it's because I was just there, present, feeling every single rep, and that was really good for me. I mean, that's the way I do it now. 2 to 3 times a week, I hit the gym, just 30 minutes each time. People are freaked out because they're like, they see me coming in. I sign in, I go to my locker, put my stuff up, and I just hit the weights for 30 minutes, and then I leave.
Yeah, that's
and then
great.
People, these guys are just like coming, they're like watching me, and they're like, you're done? I'm like, not even quarter way done with my workout.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm done. That's all I got.
You can do so much work in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think you need 4 times 1.5 hour, 4 times 2 hours of weight training.
Yeah.
No, it's you can do a lot in a short amount of time. Really a lot.
Yeah.
High quality stuff. You can build a great body with 2 trainings, 30 minutes, if you know what to do, if you have a clear plan.
Yeah. I agree.
And that's very important to really, because a lot of people think they need a lot of time. You don't have to hit the gym sometimes. Yeah, you can work out at home.
Yeah.
Depends what level you are.
Yeah.
But really, you can create an amazing fit body, amazing physique with not a lot of time.
Yeah. But even, and I hate to say it this way, but I'm getting older, I'm 42, and I feel every year I get older. I'm turning 43, August 27. I can really feel the age setting in, especially when it comes to, like, my mental capacity with patience.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, especially not physically. I feel great physically, but man, my patience is getting lower and lower. I feel like with the kids, especially, like, you begin just like
maybe because you have more and more on your plate.
Yeah, there's more and more, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, weight training, especially, it is more important than the cardiovascular now. especially as I get older, because I think now you also begin to feel weakness in your muscles. Like it's just, I feel less strong than I was like 5 years ago, and I think this weight training is essential. Like
It is.
you have to hit it. For me, I got to go twice a week, and when I go do the weight training, especially, it's just big exercises: squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press. Like that's it.
The big movement patterns.
Those big four, like
Yeah.
squat, deadlift, bench press, overhead press.
I would do
and a pull up, and
Yeah, exactly.
throw a pull up in there, pull
Yeah.
ups as well. But if you hit those 5 exercises,
It's a good work.
I think the dividends will pay off for the rest of your life. Like I know people that are like in their 60s, 70s, and you could tell that they're really frail, they're really weak, and I would venture to say if they put in that work earlier,
Yeah.
you know, like just being able to squat your body weight, you know, or
Exactly.
deadlift a bit more in your body weight.
Doing 5 to
Yeah.
10 push-ups, one
Exactly.
pull-up. I have my standards also for my seniors and so on.
Yeah.
And it's they are saying, and I'm seeing it, that's their life quality.
Yeah.
Their quality of life is
Yeah.
way up there. And I like training.
Yeah.
I like weight training, but I don't love weight training.
Yeah.
What I love is basketball, playing volleyball.
Yeah.
But I still have to do the weight training because it gives me the freedom to do everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else, running, and really gives me control over my body.
Yeah.
That's why I am doing weight training. But
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be the main part, but you still have to do it a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
Because for you, it's the main part is running, and you're still doing a couple of times weight training.
Yeah.
That's super, super important.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important.
That's why I really like weight training and fitness. It gives you the freedom to a lot of stuff. You know, play with your kids and going on hikes even when you're 60, and I don't know, gives a lot of freedom.
Yeah, indeed.
Right? Jonathan just asked, you are a very fit, sporty person already. Why did you need a coach?
Yeah, I wanted to coach. So originally, whenever I ask for help, and I'm very easy to. I love asking for help. I love asking for assistance. There's always places where you can learn. I get coaching from different things in my life, like all avenues, including like career as well. I've gotten a lot of good mentors that have helped me in my career. In running, I've gotten good coaches, good advice. And in weightlifting, I never had like a really good coach to especially when it comes to form.
Mm-hmm.
And when I discovered Jeff, and I saw the things that he was doing with Gino, and I saw how Gino was my cousin, and I saw that Gino was actually transforming, not just physically, but he was able to do exercises that I knew he couldn't do before.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, there's got to be something about this Jeff guy that he can also probably teach me something as well. And so I was like, all right, Jeff, I want to hire you, and I have very specific goals. And one of the goals was I want to drop down to 9% body fat, which was great. But then more importantly, it's like I want to get my form down correctly for doing a squat and for doing a deadlift, because I know that the squats and the deadlifts will not just help me overall in terms of my like strength and conditioning, but it'll be something that will give dividends for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because a deadlift, for instance, like you'll always use that movement.
Yeah.
You know,
Pick up your kids.
Yeah. A squat, you'll always use that movement, and I want to be able to do as much as I can at this specific time. And so I was like, I want to be able to deadlift this amount of weight in this time. And I knew that I couldn't do it on my own, and so I have to find somebody that can help me do it, and that's why I hired Jeff. It was the knowledge, it was the form, and the consistency of doing it, because I knew that if I were to do it on my own, I would revert to the way that I always do it, which is not always the right thing. So I needed somebody to come in there and be like, hey, you need to do this, you know. And I didn't realize like I wasn't lifting it correctly in a particular way, and I wouldn't have been able to do it correctly if it wasn't for a coach. So, because I think for our, we always revert to what we're most comfortable with.
Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
unless you have somebody to correct you and to coach you, then you're just going to be stuck doing things the way that you're doing it. And so I needed somebody to intervene and someone to push me into to show me the right way. And so
Thank you for trusting me.
No, especially with the deadlift, man. I mean, I still fight the tendencies that you caught in me, and that's, it's not really to push with my legs, and so it's,
sometimes you took too much weight. You wanted to get that number, but your body wasn't ready for it, and so on. And it's, I think, at first, thank you for those compliments. But I have coaches too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just really, you buy an easier way because you get the knowledge, you get the accountability part too. Yes, but he navigates you to circumstances, and he sets a goal. Which is reasonable, because sometimes you are in your head, you're just looking at that specific thing and you don't know what you're missing and so on, and that coach is the bird's eye, or your navigation system, I would say, who's looking from the outside.
I think in life, coaches and mentors are invaluable, and people that say they don't need coaches or don't need mentors, I think they're missing a big aspect of growth in life. And I mean, I even to this day, like, I still have mentors, I still have coaches that look out for my best interests, and I go to them regularly. And I'm still mentoring a lot of people as well. Like, for instance, before I got here to this podcast, one of the guys that I was mentoring asked me, hey, do you have time for a one-on-one today? And I'm like, this is the sign. And he's a very successful individual. He's very motivated, also doing really well in his life. But if you were to see him, you wouldn't think this guy has a mentor or this guy's a coach. But I think the most successful, the most driven people have the humility to say, you know what, I can go further, and I can't go further unless I have somebody to show me the way. But I think it's also, you have to be very specific. It's like, what do you want, from this coach? And I think the people that benefit most from coaches, they go in there knowing, this is what I'm lacking, and this is what I think you can help me with if you have the time.
Of course, but I also have clients who don't know actually what they want and so on, and you have to make a clear plan first, or analyze what is the goal actually, the deep why, and because a lot of people don't know, they're like, I want to lose 5 kilos, and I think a good coach helps you with a lot of those stuff. And you buy time, you buy growth, you buy a higher probability that you're successful in different parts with a coach. And that's so important, because you can do it alone. But it can take years or decades.
And you might not do it correctly, though. And
exactly.
That's the thing as well. Like, you might be doing the same thing over and over, and it's not right, or it might be hurting you in the long run.
And as if you said, everybody has the same 24 hours. But in that way, you get speed. You don't do the wrongdoings everybody else doing, or you would do if you wouldn't have a coach.
I've even had coaches at work, or I call them mentors, and I have had 2 really good ones in my career, and now they've turned into really good friends as well, and they really help push me in terms of my knowledge at work and my capability. So, and I made it very clear to them as well. It's like, hey, would you mind taking me under your wing to kind of show me
It takes courage, right?
Yeah, it takes courage.
So, hey, this is what I'm lacking.
Yeah.
I need your help to accept that you're lacking in that specific area.
But you know what? It's like, when you come with that kind of humility and you realize, like, this is what you're missing, the person that you approach, most of the time, they'll have an open mind, to what they can offer you,
Because it's beautiful to give back.
Yeah, I
would say.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful to give back as a coach, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a selfish thing, but
Yeah.
I really like the feeling I get back.
Yeah.
Not that I'm always looking for it,
Yeah.
but it's a great feeling to help people.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, the benefit from it as well is like the promotions that I got through work, I couldn't have gotten if it wasn't for these guys that were mentoring me. So, yeah.
Good, good. Do you have a coach for your relationship?
Coach from a
With your wife?
relationship. I mean, I wouldn't say that they were one. How do you say, like, they're like like physically present all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but I've had like what they call spiritual directors
Mm-hmm.
from my past,
Yeah.
and like I've asked them for advice as well on marriage, relationship advice, and they were really good fathers and husbands as well. And they've had, I mean, these guys, I have 4 kids, and that's considered a lot right now, but these guys have like 7 kids, like these guys like really have
a lot of
of
kids.
children,
I want to have a lot of kids too, but 7 is
7 is a lot, and one of my really good friends, he comes from a family of 11, and his dad was an incredible father, and like just seeing the example he was, like, pretty cool. But anyways, in terms of having like those kind of coaches for marriage, we've had in the community we belong to, we call them household heads, and we've had some really solid household heads that we've taken a lot of advice from.
Okay.
And they've really watched out for our marriage as well, and so we've had the privilege of having that. So,
what are the simple things you're doing to maintain a healthy relationship with your wife?
yeah, I can't go back to saying how important it is to have a solid relationship with your wife in order to have a solid family, and because your kids see that, right? Like your kids see the relationship that you have with your wife. So one thing my wife and I try to do is to make it very visible to the children to see that we have a very healthy. It's not perfect,
Yeah.
but it's something that we work on a lot. A good relationship. They see us. I think one important aspect is they see the physical intimacy. They see my wife and I kissing in front of them, and they're like, "Yeah, that's so gross." But I know that one day they'll look back and be like, "You know what? That was really important." And then when they're with their partner someday, they'll be like, "You know what? This is important." And why is it important? Because it shows the care and compassion that they have for one another. So yeah, number 1 is that they see the physical intimacy that we have. Number 2, they see us working through our problems. So just the other night, my wife and I were having an argument. We weren't fighting, we were just arguing over something. And my daughter walked into the room and she's like, "Are you fighting?" And I'm like, "Yes, honey, we're fighting, but it's okay." And then we worked it out, that evening as well. And then I went back downstairs to talk to my daughter, and I said, "Look, your mama and I were fighting, but we worked through it, and now we're okay." And so she saw, like...
That's so beautiful.
So now she saw that, hey, fighting doesn't have to end in, like, just bad blood. There's a resolution to it, and it can come out well. So they see that we work through our problems. 3, they see us communicate. So we talk a lot, my wife and I, and we talk a lot in front of the kids, and the kids hear us talk. And sometimes the kids will butt into the conversation. They're like, "But what does this mean? And what does that mean?" And we're like, it's like, okay, Mom and I are talking right now. But they see that there's communication. And so those 3, like, foundational things, the intimacy, the resolution, the communication are important. And then we try to make it visible for the whole family. So that's something that we do for the entire family and that we do for ourselves. One practical thing that we do as a couple, other than pray, which is very important for us in our faith journey, is prayer as a couple. But the other thing that we do that's very important, is very foundational. We call it a marriage meeting. And
okay.
This is because everyone's like eyes always light up, like, what does that mean? A marriage meeting is something that we've discovered. It's basically a 20-minute meeting that you have with your spouse once a week. And we do our very best to do this meeting once a week. It starts out very simple. First, you affirm. So you affirm your spouse in something that they did well that week. And it could be anything. So last week I affirmed my wife, and she looked really good on Monday because of the outfit that she was wearing. So I affirmed her on that, and then I affirmed her on the fact that she stayed up really late to make sure, like, all the laundry was done.
Mm-hmm.
So I affirmed her in those two things.
yeah.
And so she likewise will affirm me in two things that I
Mm-hmm.
did really well that week. And so when you affirm somebody in that way, you really have to keep your eye open to see what your spouse is doing. And so it makes you observe, like, okay, my wife is not just like doing this, or my husband is not just doing this. They're actually, and so it makes you observe your spouse. So affirm. Second is what we call the business meeting. And the business meeting is the things that we have to do this week. And when you have 4 kids, you have a schedule that you have to really juggle around. So it's like, okay, on Monday, we need to buy the school supplies. On Tuesday, we need to do the grocery shopping. On Wednesday, I have a meeting with this person. On Saturday, I have a podcast to do with Jeff. That's all discussed, in the business meeting of our. And people are like, why do you have a business? Well, it's for this reason. We want to know what's going on in the week, so we don't miss anything. Because for me, I will most likely miss an appointment if it's not for this business meeting. And then we put it into our shared calendars, and it's there. And we don't miss it. So she knew today on Saturday that I had this podcast because of the business meeting that we had. And then the third part is where we deal with future plans. So future plans are like, we want to go on vacation in the summer, what are we going to do to get to that?
Yeah.
Like, starting now, like, how are we begin to plan for these future plans? Or we need to get the fence fixed, or we need to work on the garden at some point. So these future plans, like, we keep a running list of things that these are the future plans that we have. And the last thing is what we call the major obstacles in our lives. And so these are dealing with, like, major problems that we might be facing. It's like, okay, work is really hard right now.
Yeah.
How am I going to get through it? Or, you know what, I'm kind of feeling down. Maybe it's postpartum syndrome that your partner is going through, or maybe it's an issue with a family member, something like that, like a major issue. Or maybe it's like I'm battling with an addiction, or I'm battling with depression, and then we talk about that. And then we wrap it up. And that's it.
I love that communication part.
Yeah. So those
The
4 major
relationship.
things, the affirmation, business meeting, future plans, major obstacles. If you can do that for 20 minutes a week, it's amazing, like how much you stay on top of the marriage, because a lot of times you're in a marriage. We've been married for 13 years now. You'll get to a point. It's like we've grown distant. We don't know what's happening. Like we feel really distant from one another, and that's where a lot of problems begin to surface. That's where a lot of fights come in, and it's because of, I'd say 80% of it is because of the lack of the communication. If you can get these ways of dealing with that, like for us, it's this marriage meeting. It really helps.
It's a good
lot.
tool.
Yeah, it's a great tool, but it really helps with the communication. It helps with the intimacy even. So I would say, like, that's what we do in order to keep our marriage strong. And then lastly, what to keep a marriage strong is respect. Like, you have to respect your spouse. And one thing that we said right in the beginning of our marriage is, like, we'll always respect each other. Never call each other names. We never make fun of each other's character flaws or whatever.
Exactly.
That never comes up. Like, we've never ever called each other, like, you're stupid, you're like you're lazy. Like, we've never done that in our entire 13 years of marriage. We've never insulted each other's
because you're a
character.
team. You don't insult your teammates.
There has to be respect.
You say a few stuff where you can do better or so. Let's work together on that, but there shouldn't be a time where there's no respect.
And of course, we obviously, like, grow impatient with each other, we get on each other's nerves, and that's completely normal.
It is.
But you have to maintain the respect, like that has to be solid, I think.
I like that a lot. John and I were really communicating a lot too, and we're open to criticism or to feedback, and sometimes we fight too. But it's normal. Really, really normal. Because I knew from my parents, I didn't know how to fight before. I learned with John how to fight, how we discuss certain things. But before with my parents, it was like, you go to your room, we're gonna fight here.
Yeah.
And then you don't know what happened.
Yeah.
But when you tell your kid, hey, this is what happened, we fought over this, but it's okay, and we found a solution together, it gives her really a good foundation how
Yeah.
to have a good relationship, or how to communicate when there are stuff you are not disagreeing with.
Yeah. And I think it's another thing as well. What's interesting, you said the parents made you go to another, or the parents made her go to another room, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my parents did that as well. Like, my parents fought, but they would go to the room and fight.
Yeah.
And I think there's also a value in that. Like, when we do fight and raise our voices, we do our best to make sure the kids are not in the room, because I think that's something that they don't need to be a part of. Like, and so when we do fight and we do raise our voices, the kids are usually not present.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have to think. We're not raising our voices that much, actually.
I mean, there were a couple times where we did yell at each other,
Yeah.
and the kids were there, and the kids remember it because it happened in the Philippines. We were on vacation, and we were yelling at each other in the car, and my son must have been like 4. My eldest was like 4 at the time, 4 or 5, and he remembers. And he
Still now.
he still remembers, like,
I remember a lot of fights with
Yeah.
my parents too. Yeah, right.
yeah. So I think that's one thing we try to make sure is, like, when we yell at each other, try to make sure the kids are not in the room. So, yeah, because I remember that.
But the communication afterwards is so important.
It's very
Hey,
important.
we fought.
And it's okay.
We disagreed on a couple of things. It's okay. We solved it now.
Yeah.
Good, Vince.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time. It was
No,
a
likewise.
Great talk.
This was a great talk, great conversation. Thank you.
Where do people find you?
You can find me on all of the social media accounts. Vince Granado, Facebook, Vince Granado, Instagram, Twitter.
Cool.
There.
Really, I look up to you.
Thank you. Likewise.
Because I see you as, I coached you, but you coached me how you are as a person. And I see how great of a man you are with your kids and so on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for taking this time.
Likewise.